Welcome to a new episode of The Good Talk here in studio, West Coast Creative Studio. Today I have two guests. This is the first time I have two guests in studio on the podcast. So this is something new for me. And I want to get into it. We have Catie and Ceylin. Or how do you pronounce your name?
Ceylin.
Ceylin.
Yeah.
But how do you spell it?
Ceylin.
I thought it was Celine or Ceylin, but it's not.
No.
Okay. So we'll get into that.
Yes.
But I want to start off with like a little introduction about both of you. And I want to know a little bit more about you. Tell our guests like who you guys are and where you're from. And let's go ahead and start with you, Catie.
Okay. Hi, I am from Germany. I have been living in LA for, I think, a little over 3 years almost. So I moved here to work in the film industry. I already worked in film in Germany. So back in the day, I went to like German film school. I worked on set a lot. And eventually I was like, okay, if you want to like grow in the film industry, it kind of made sense for me to come to LA. So I kept working on set in LA, but more as a producer and started producing my own projects and music videos. And that's how I also pivoted into writing. So now I'm a writer-producer. But one of the main reasons why I came to LA actually was because I wanted to be part of the industry. So I was really fortunate that I got to work with a lot of like big LA like film production companies to just learn from them of like, okay, how is it done in LA in comparison to like how we made films in Germany?
Incredible. Yeah. And what about you?
So I'm from Turkey originally,
Okay.
but I did study at American colleges there. So like I grew up with the American culture and like anything about United States, to be honest. And like since my childhood, I've been into acting, theater, and like anything about arts. And I used to be a theater student.
Okay.
And like I was so into musical theater, to be honest. And that's why like I was so interested in coming to the East Coast. And I was like dying to go to the Broadway and New York. And suddenly I did a drastic change in my interest. And when I grew up, like I thought it would be so much more reasonable for me to be on the back of the camera instead of like doing the same thing, like you just like go and play the same show every day as a theater person, which I did and I didn't like that much. That's how I came to LA back in 2017, actually.
2017.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I first did the New York Film Academy's program here, and I fell in love with the city. And I just like got back to Turkey for a year and moved back to LA. And since then, I'm here. Like it's been 6 years-ish.
Yeah. And when did you move to LA?
I moved to LA back at like 2021 as soon as, because of the pandemic,
Yeah.
you couldn't travel to LA. So the moment they issued visas again, I got my visa and then I came. But I actually lived in Chicago before then. So after high school, before college, I moved to Chicago, went to film school there. I went to Northwestern there for a semester. And that's when I was like, okay, solidifying. Like I want to be in America. I want to do film here. But then went back to Germany, lived in Berlin for a while. And then in 2021, came back to LA.
Okay. So you guys have a lot in common.
Yeah.
All right. You're from Turkey, Germany. How did you guys meet?
So we have met actually at a acting course at UCLA, which was online back then because it was still the pandemic. And they paired us to do a scene together. So like they basically put you in a private room to, like practice the scene. That's how we got paired. And from there, we kind of connected, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it took us a minute to actually like then start hanging out in person. Yeah. And once we did, it was like, okay, we see like this works. Yeah. And then from building a friendship, it soon became like, oh, let's actually also work together.
Yeah.
So what kind of scene was this? What can you tell us a little bit about the scene you guys worked on together?
It was a class about Stanislavski, so a certain kind of acting, which is interesting that we met in an acting class because I don't pursue acting professionally. For me, it was more like, okay, getting out of your shell, like seeing what it's like in front of the camera. But I don't really see myself as an actor and definitely more like writer, producer. But the scene was, I think, about like two people we made it in a cafe, but we got a script that was so generic. And our teacher just told us, come up with a story. So everyone had the same script. and we just had to make it special. So we decided like, oh, it's set in a cafe and like we're estranged old friends and things like that.
Yeah. And we ended up writing something together and
Yes.
producing.
And this was
eventually.
like the beginning of both of your careers?
Not really, I guess. It's very the middle, huh?
Yeah, I think it's just like in LA, everything like
Yeah.
always pivots and you grow and you evolve. Like, I think it was the beginning for me, at least, of like my LA career of like pivoting and like growing in that sense. And just like trying out a lot of different things, which is why I actually ended up in that acting class. But I have worked in film for like multiple years beforehand and was like a location manager, assistant director, and just like worked my way around set to just understand how a film set works. And that was really interesting because some of these films were like German TV movies or like feature films that went into like certain festivals and that had theatrical distribution, which was exciting, but I was never the producer. And then once I met Jalen and we like started actually producing things together too, it's like, okay, now you're in charge and responsible for all these things.
And for me, I think it was my third year here, like living here. And to be honest, I was the person who talks about how it was so much better before the pandemic, because like I've been even like talking about it since then, because I remember it was so much easier to find a job in the entertainment industry. I did a lot of big productions, even a Netflix movie back then before the pandemic. And I was just like so tired at that point because I had to like went through all the pandemic situation here after you get to taste that LA and it changed. Like I know who are from LA kind of talk about this, but like even as a person who is not from here, I got to experience that, which I feel I'm lucky, but I'm also so sad. Like whenever I meet with someone, I try to like explain them like it was so much better, it was so much easier.
Yeah.
But for me, like at that point, I found the job that I'm still working in. And to be honest, like until that point, I was not that sure that I want to be a producer. And that was the year I kind of started to like figure out that producing is my thing.
Yeah. And what made you, like both of you, what made you want to get into like the film world and the film industry back when you guys were in your home countries?
For me, I think as a child, I was always like dreaming texts into visuals. Even I remember like when I was going to the theater with my family or stuff, like when I went out, like I was even like pretending that I am one of the characters, or like what would I write as an ending or stuff like that. So like I think I was such a child that imagines a lot about stories. That's why like I don't even remember when it started, you know, like I was that child that always wanted to do something on stage. I think I was just more like into the stage idea, because being from somewhere outside the US, you always have this limitation in your mind, to be honest. Like, I'm not sure if it's real though, but like in your mind, you always have this like, you know, that's Hollywood, or like maybe England. Yes, there's a secondary Hollywood there too. But if you're not from there, you should have a proper accent to be an actress, especially if you are dreaming about acting, you know? And you always feel, oh, maybe theater would be a more like safe choice for me. And now it's evolved into this, but I'm really happy that I got to discover what I really want.
Yeah. What about you, Catie? What got you into like pursuing like a film career?
It's funny because I think, like, when I look back on it now, I think there was never any other option for me to do anything else but work in the film industry, because I've always loved film. I've always been obsessed with like watching movies, dissecting them, and just really being like nitpicky about it too. Not just like, oh, this is entertaining, but just like caring about all the behind the scenes. I remember I would always like early on watch behind the scenes. And I thought originally that it's like, oh, after I went to film school in Chicago, that's when I realized like you can have a career and pursue this. And there's actually like schools for this and you can make money with this. And I feel like that's like technically when I was serious about it. But now when I think about it, I wrote my very first play in fourth grade. Like in fourth grade, I wrote like a modern adaptation of The Little Red Riding Hood. And everyone in my class wanted to be part of it. So I literally like wrote it, I put it on technically directed it, casted all my classmates. And then in 7th grade in middle school, I actually made my own first film, which I also wrote the script for. And then with a bunch of friends, we just like had a like shitty little camera and like filmed a little movie. But in the end, we actually, for a like local town film festival, we won the first prize. So I feel like technically I've been award winning since like 7th grade, but then it took me until after high school to actually be like, oh, this is not just a hobby.
Okay, wow. So you worked in Germany. That's where you started.
Yeah.
And now you've worked in the US in the film industry. What are like the major differences that you've noticed?
Oh, that's so interesting. I think for me, some of the main differences actually are because I was working in Berlin, and Berlin is very much like the art house scene. It felt more about, because in Germany, it's about the financing, and that's the producer and me. Like other people would probably say like, well, it's the acting and the storytelling. And I'm like, I see it from a business point of view, and it's just like two entirely different business models. Whereas like in America, it's like the movie has to make money. We have a whole studio system. And so like, that's why development takes forever to figure out like, the script is good enough, who are you going to cast, how are we going to make the money back? And that's how you get your big blockbusters that are actually successful like worldwide. And in Germany, I think it's not necessarily the language that's limiting, because we see more and more projects from Germany that are successful and that are popular through Amazon Prime, through Netflix. But without the streaming services, the business model was so different that to me, when I was younger and still there, it felt limiting. And it felt like there was a ceiling of how big you can go, and your cast and actors. Like now it's slowly changing, but it felt like if you want to act and like not act, but like work on a global scale, you have to do it in an international market. And Germany felt more like a national film market.
Which one do you enjoy more, working here or back in Germany?
Oh, here.
Yeah?
But I think it's also because I love the US.
Yeah.
I just really like being in the States.
And I would think there's way more opportunity out here, right? Within the film world, especially in LA. I mean, just in the US, I think there's more opportunity for the film world, right?
Also, there is more competition though.
That's true.
I was going to say, it's interesting because it depends on what you want to do. I think for what I'm interested in on the business side, there are so many opportunities. Like I worked for 87 North, who did like Fall Guy and Bullet Train. And I worked for Agbo, which is owned by the Russo brothers. Like having those opportunities to actually meet and talk with people who make these like big movies is so inspiring. And in that case, yes, LA has way more opportunities to just actually sit down and have lunch with these people and learn from them and just be like, oh, so how did you do this? And it's so fascinating. But when you are an independent producer and you're trying to get the funds to make your own film and just like find people to like somehow make it work, I feel like there are actually more opportunities in Germany because because it is a different financing system, and it's more like more of a government funds and more art funds that help you actually as an up and coming filmmaker to get your own projects off the ground.
And Ceylin, you went to the New York Film Academy. What did you learn by going to the New York Film Academy?
So I think I can connect your previous question to Catie to that, because before coming to that school, I was already like getting acting classes back in Turkey, and I did some jobs in Turkey, even though I don't know if you're familiar, but our TV shows are so long, and like we do have this 2 hours episodes.
Oh, wow. It's like a podcast.
Yeah, and it's pretty successful business out there because they're selling a lot of it outside Brazil, like, nice. And stuff. But that's why, like, I feel like because it was kind of a more tough environment for people, I felt like the environment was not that much supportive. They were just more into like getting things done, to be honest, because they have a lot to do. I totally understand that too. That's why like the dynamics in the crews were not that much clear back then. And I believe it is so much better now. They developed it too. But that's why like 7-8 years ago, I was so impressed by the environment at the New York Film Academy, because like we had such famous teachers there. Like one teacher was telling us that he directed 3 episodes of Friends. And, like, we were like, really? And, like, you're here and teaching us? So like I think one thing that impressed me most about LA in general, but also New York Film Academy, was that like no matter who you are and no matter what stage you are at in your career, like everyone behaves you equally, as especially when you're getting educated, to be honest. And we got to have our sets on the Universal Studios backlot, which was so incredible. And if you have been there and did the studio tour, like there are backlots and like you do this tour around the backlot. And I remember as a student, like we had these like tourists who were doing the tour and they were thinking that we are really like celebrities and they were like waving us and like taking pictures and we were like pretending that we are, which was really fun because that was really nice of them to like create this environment for you where you get to like experience very professional sets and like learning from very professional people. I think being in the real environment where you get to behave equally with everyone, that was very impressive for me.
Yeah, and you also have a psychology degree.
Yes, I
right?
do. Yeah, that was by mistake, but I'm so happy.
Yeah. Well, how does having a psychology degree help your film career?
Yeah, a lot. To be honest, like it's such a
It was a great mistake then.
Yeah, it is for sure. Like I think that would be a story that I always tell to my friends and family. Everything happens for a reason, you know? Because back then I kind of accidentally put that into my like choices and ended up there. And I was so sad. I remember I was crying. Why didn't I get to be in the media program, you know? And then I did a double major. So like I ended up getting both. And I was like, thank God I did that because I think psychology is something that is in our lives every day. I mean, it was such a development for my own personal growth. And then it helped me to communicate so much better in the projects. And like, because I started writing, it did have like a huge impact on the stories that I created. And I think because now I kind of ended up being a producer, it's such a difficult job to do because you have to manage a lot of people and a lot of like relationships around the crew and like bigger studios and like any aspect that you can imagine and like any little milestone that you can imagine. Like,
I was gonna say, in personalities.
Yes.
Like everyone is a different person and just
and that's why I think psychology background helps me a lot in that. And I think that's such a great highlight in my career because people also feel so much better when they see that on my resume and like that makes a difference, I feel like. And I'm proud of it. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you guys both grew up outside of the US. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys grew up watching TVs, movies, and the celebrities out here in LA or all these big movie stars, right? Was there someone like maybe that inspired you guys or motivated you that gave you like influenced you to kind of do what you're doing now? Like when you were like, growing up over there that you saw like maybe a celebrity or maybe you guys saw a show or a movie that inspired you?
It's so interesting. My answer feels like such a cliche.
Yeah.
Because
like Miley Cyrus, Hannah Montana.
Well, I did grow up watching a lot of Disney Channel, to be honest. Like I watched a lot of Disney Channel and then with my friends in our free time, we would just like come up with new episodes and just like act them out. It's just like meeting up and being like, okay, today is happening this and that. And then we're just like playing that out. So it was a lot of those shows actually. But I think early on, I watched a lot of like, I always was fascinated with classics. Like reading, I never loved reading, but I wanted to read classics. And I think with movies, I always loved watching movies. But my dad at some point was like, okay, let's watch some classics together. And I remember I was like, okay, I need to see like Star Wars. I need to see Jurassic Park. I wanted to see like the big name movies.
I thought you were gonna say like Casablanca or something with classics.
No, like she went with the classics. Yeah, it's funny because I actually like always thought I don't like black and white movies, and then through film school, like I watched like 12 Angry Men,
You
and I was
have
like,
to,
that's
you know?
one of the best movies. I love it so much.
Yeah.
So I think it's movies in general. And when I was really young, that's why I was like, my answer is going to be such a cliche. Like if you ask me about celebrities, like one of my like all-time favorite was Leonardo DiCaprio, but it was like the older Leonardo DiCaprio, not the Titanic, but
The Titanic, Leonardo.
no, like
Not-
after
Not-
Titanic. Like I love Titanic, but it was more like the Inception and Catch Me If You Can kind of era, like when we grow a little older. So I just always loved those films. And like Shutter Island is one of my all-time favorite movie. It's so good. It's just the cast, the directors. So for me, it was always about like, okay, so how did they do this? What does that mean? Which inspired me. So yeah, but if you ask for like a specific celebrity, unfortunately, it is such a cliche.
For me, I think because I was so much into musical theater, I remember I used to like visit London a lot and New York a lot, and like I used to watch all of the musical theaters there like twice or something. I think that's why this might feel cliche too, but like back in 2017 when I watched La La Land, I think that was the day I decided to apply for New York Film Academy because
Wow.
I think I loved the idea there and how it kind of combined my two passion, you know, like because that was, even though like there's a huge controversy on that, I'm on the positive side of it. I think that was kind of a different choice to like make this big of a movie, but it's still a musical theater, you know, and like having that cast. That's how like I'm such a fan of Emma Stone in general. I used to be, but like I started to be even more
I
like
didn't
after
even know.
that. And Damien Chazelle is the director and the producer of The La La Land, which kind of became kind of an idol for me. To be honest, at that time, he kind of created this magical and dreamy LA, you know, and that's how I came here. But then he did Babylon, if you have seen it. It's kind of the opposite side. And it's funny because like after coming here and like getting to see everything about Hollywood, I kind of see both sides.
Yeah.
But I would say like Emma Stone kind of like feels
Okay.
my idol, and the poor things kind of like
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie yet.
confirmed my
Yeah,
fandom, you
I
know.
haven't seen Poor
Oh, Poor
Things.
Things.
so good.
It's
So good? Okay, I gotta
It's
watch it.
But it's such a like filmmakers movie.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those movies
Like-
that feels a little too art house, but it just
Yeah.
works.
Yeah,
on
they
such-
won a bunch of awards.
It's
yeah,
really good.
like I had to warn my mom, like, please stay in the theater and don't go out because like the first 30 minutes
and we watched it together.
Yeah.
We were in the theater
Yeah.
together, and we were looking at each other, and we were like, what the F is going on? And we literally didn't have a good time. We were just looking at each other like, this is weird. This is not good. Like, we were also like, why does Emma Stone want to play this character? And then as we were just like sitting through the movie, it became better and better. And by the end of it, when we walked out, we were like, this is amazing. We love it.
Wow, that's crazy. So you guys met during acting class, right?
Yeah.
And do you still pursue acting to this point?
I wouldn't say I do it professionally, but I did acting at New York Film Academy as well, and I did have a manager. I did few commercial stuff, and I ended up acting in our short film that we just produced and having the premiere. But I also did a studio kind of education this year, which was a very famous one here in LA. And I kind of feel like it changed my perspective toward acting because I think because of the language barrier, I was not that much confident in my acting. But after I get to like discover the actual like, how can I say, like the turnaround in my own feelings, it kind of changed everything, and I felt much more confident in it. I wouldn't say I want to be an actress and I don't want to do anything else. Maybe it might feel cliche, but I would love to act here and there when I produce.
Just like,
Like
give
in
yourself a
your
little
own stuff.
cameo.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Catie? Is that something that you just didn't really want to pursue from the get-go?
It's interesting because in Germany, I felt like maybe it's a cultural thing, but I never felt like I could say I want to be an actress, even though it was always interesting to me being in front of the camera, like modeling, acting, anything like that was just tempting. But I felt like I could never actually like go out and tell people like, oh, I want to give it a try. Because for me and my perception of my environment, it felt like it was like a little like frowned upon. It's like, oh, you're that kind of person. So I felt like I held back and I was like, okay, I love film. So I'm the person behind the camera. And then when I moved to LA, I was just surrounded by so many actors and so many also like bold and like grand personalities where it's like, oh yeah, just like do what you want to do. Like also the American idea of just like, oh, pursue your dream. Like if you want to give it a shot, give it a shot. So
I was just gonna say that I think that's one thing that I kind of observed when I'm living here, because like I kind of envy people who are from LA. I'm not sure how it is outside LA though. I don't want to generalize it, but I feel like here people are more like motivated toward like following their dreams and like, you know, because it's the center of arts, maybe like
city of dreams.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like risk it. Like worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out and then you do something else, but at least you tried. So for me, because of the program that I did at UCLA, taking an acting class was just part of it. So I was like, okay, great, let's give it a shot. And I at first told myself like, oh, you're doing it to like break out of your shell, get out of your comfort zone. And I really enjoyed it, actually. I loved doing the acting classes. I remember the first time I had a breakthrough in one of the classes with my scene partner. And I was like, oh, this felt so real. Like this is the energy that people are going after and why people love acting. So I was glad that I had that moment. And I think it taught me a lot about just understanding different roles on set. Because when you don't understand how actors work, it always feels like, oh, everyone's making such a fuss about like actors being in a good mood and like having their extra trailer. And I think once you, no, it's funny because like everyone's working hard and you sometimes feel like, well, why is someone getting like so much special treatment or like sometimes getting pampered in like big air quotes. And I think it's so important for anyone in the film department, but especially when you are a director, an actor, a writer, a producer, like in those like main lead positions, to understand the importance of everyone on set. So for me, I learned quickly that acting is really fun and I loved the experience and I loved meeting those people and meeting other actors, but it's so competitive that I'm not passionate enough about it to be an actor, to like actually professionally pursue acting. But it taught me so much about what an actor needs and how an actor operates and how they work. And that's kind of what I got from other jobs when I was working on set in Germany. It's like learning, okay, as a location manager, what does your grip department need? What does your camera department need? And I think that helped me now as a producer to really understand every crew member's need and kind of like communicate better between them. So I don't call myself an actor or an actress, and I don't think I would ever like pursue it, but it is a fun thing. So if I have the opportunity or if someone's like, you want to like be in front of the camera, now I don't shy away from it anymore.
Like, you want to be on a podcast?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah. I think that you guys have that background, even if it's like a small background in acting. I think that it will help your careers as producers, directors, and just anything in the film industry. It's good to have that in your background for sure. But let's talk about some of your projects and achievements that you've had. What are some of the projects that you guys have worked on? Have you guys worked on any projects together?
We're in the midst of one right now that we've been working on for the past like 6 months.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
What is this project you guys are working on together?
Do you want to start?
So I think you would love the story in the back
Everyone
of it.
will love the story.
Because I think like 8 months ago, maybe 7 months ago, we were at this panel called Deadline Contenders.
At the DGA for the Directors Guild.
And like the panelists were like Margot Robbie, like Julianne Moore,
Natalie Portman.
Yeah, a lot of like very famous names. And we were really lucky because we
and
were
Greta
there.
Gerwig was there.
Yeah.
Like basically the Barbie cast and then for a lot of different movies. And I think what was super inspiring to us, it was also the director and the cast for the movie Bottoms. And I don't know if you've watched it. It's like, it had theatrical distribution and it had a moment that it was like kind of like big enough. But the director was so young and I think it was like her second feature film or something. And she's only done a few
maybe even 1 or 2 short films.
And that was so inspiring because
Yeah.
like you see it can work. Like you do 1, 2 good short films and then you do a feature and suddenly like she's sitting here at the DGA like teaching us.
Alongside with the other famous
Yeah.
names, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why we were like, should we come up with an idea that we can like end up producing together and like do something really professional and like big? And we started thinking about brainstorming about some ideas. I think that was the first time I'm creating something from like a different point of view, because you know, like when you create stories, you kind of like have a like a small idea and you start writing and kind of the story evolves when you're writing. But for us, it was like, so let's create a story that would like that everyone would relate and like what we want to tell to people, you know? And then we thought like, we're not from here, we are chasing our dreams, but also like missing anything about our families and friends there. So we have this emotion in us. How can we just like create a story on it that everyone can relate and feel something out of it? So like then we kind of started creating a story around it, which was really interesting.
I think
What is this project called?
it's called Deserted.
Is it a short film,
It is a
feature
short
film? It's a
film.
short film. How long is this
It's
short
a
film?
15-minute drama.
15 minute? Okay.
And it's all set in the desert. That's why we like spell it desert.ed. So it's like deserted because you're lost in the desert, but it also takes place.
So you guys have been working on this for 6 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
How far are you guys? Do you guys have a script?
Oh, we wrote it together somewhat quickly. I was surprised because writing can take forever.
Yeah.
But kind of like the approach that Jalen explained, the writing process happened so quickly. I think by the end of December, we had a script and we started like finding our director, our DP, already talking to them. And now we're going to have a premiere. So the film is in the very, very, very final steps of post-production.
Oh, okay.
And-
Okay, so
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you guys have
Yeah.
already shot this.
Yes. Back
Incredible.
in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's already been shot.
Yes.
How do you guys go about finding like a director, like a DP, and the whole crew?
I think that is another thing that I always knew, but this project really taught me. That's why I have to be in LA, because you meet people and it is your network. So like wherever you live and wherever you are, that's kind of like your network of people, and you meet more people, and through them, it's like our DP also went through UCLA. But we haven't met him at UCLA. I met him through mutual friends at a birthday party. And he was like, oh yeah, let's stay in touch. And then months later, I was like, I have this project and I would love for you to shoot it. So it's kind of like people you know.
And we ended up having very professional people in the crew. To be honest, like we did start this idea like wishing it to be a professional production, but we didn't know that it would end up really professional, because we ended up getting a very experienced DP who is from
And our
Brazil,
director
and
too.
our director too. They're much more older than us, and like
Don't say like much more older.
no,
They're
but
gonna hate us for that.
but they've been in the industry for over 10 years, maybe.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
much
know?
more experienced.
Yes.
They're
but, you know,
seasoned.
Exactly. And also just because our DP is award winning, our director
Yeah.
is award winning. I think they both have experience across multiple departments of film. So it was really nice to come in with people where it's like, okay, we are the producers and we want to treat this professionally, but they come in and because they've done this before, they could also guide us with like, okay, if this is the camera package you need, like we already bring the experience and can kind of like guide you through the process too, which was really helpful for us. So yeah, for us, I think the main thing, kind of like
Yeah.
Jalen said, is to make it professional, because when you say like, oh, you went to UCLA and you met at UCLA, it's like people may think like, oh, it's a student film. It's like, but
Yeah.
It's not.
and sometimes
not.
it has like a bad stigma when people are like, oh yeah, like show me your little like short film, and we're like, no, we actually want this.
Little short film.
Invested in
Exactly.
this.
So yeah, let's talk about investments and budgeting, right? How do you guys budget for a short film like this?
You can't, because like there's always a surprise coming along the way. I feel like, especially when you're an independent producer, you know, because when you're more like with a studio, they basically like come up with a very huge budget, and like you can just like play around within that. But like when you're independent, you wanna know exactly what this gonna cost to you, but because again, you're independent, so like things kind of change along the way. So obviously it ended up much more of a budget than we planned, which is
So do you guys have
better.
like other investors or like other executive producers that like come in?
We had an executive producer coming in and help us with the investment because
Yeah.
originally we thought we could self-fund it. Just because in short films, you can get a festival run and you can get recognition, but it's harder to sell it and actually make money off short films than it is with features. But for us, it felt more doable to do a short first before
Yeah.
we jump into a feature, also from the timeline that we had.
Yeah.
But somewhere down the line, it's just like if you, which we also can share, is like if you knew about like our physical production that we had in February. And I know everyone always says that in the independent filmmaking world, but everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And you always budget like a little extra expenses for like, what if this happens and what if that happens? But literally everything was just like so over budget that we were like, okay, either we just cancel the shoot and we're not shooting at all, or we just start spending and we just gonna say like, well, let's just like run this credit card. So luckily we had an investor come in during post to help.
Yeah. But I think we were also like lucky because we got to connect with right people, and like we ended up shooting on an Alexa, which is like
Super nice.
such a huge deal for a short film. And like we had a lot of very professional gear and people and everything. So like even though now it seemed like a over budget film, but now it feels really like on to the point and very
So
professional.
it's in the post-production process right now. It's getting edited.
No, it's done. Actually,
It's
like
done.
the edit is done. The sound mix is almost done. We're like currently doing the color and like final tweaks on the score, but we're pretty much just like in the very final
And
stages.
do you guys have a trailer for this movie yet?
We
Or
have
not
a
yet?
promo and maybe a coming up trailer. We will have the premiere on the 30th, so we would love you to come and anyone
Sure. When is it?
listening to this 30th of June.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
30th.
Sunday at 2 p.m.
Wow, that's like
Yeah.
next week?
Yes.
It's in 10 days.
Wow. Oh, okay. So that's
Yeah.
coming out really
Yes.
soon. Awesome.
Yeah.
Deserted.
Yes.
Okay, I'm excited. I would love to come to the premiere. Where is it going to be held at?
It's gonna be at the Lumiere Musical. It's on Wilshire around West Hollywood.
Are you guys selling tickets for this? How do people attend?
It's of course free. We are inviting people out. So like if people are interested, we can definitely like share a link to RSVP.
Yes.
That's awesome.
We're also doing it for free right now just
Yes.
because we feel like we're so early in our careers where we just want to have people to come and enjoy the film. We want our crew to be able to be there, like other professionals that we've met during our time in LA to just showcase our work. And quite frankly, also, like as you know, we're both not from America. So having projects that just where people attend that get some recognition and people actually enjoy them helps us to stay in the country and continue working in Los Angeles. So that's also one of the incentives.
Yeah, we gotta keep you guys here.
Yeah.
You guys are making dreams happen, and I love that. But what advice would you guys give like to aspiring filmmakers?
You have one? I do.
Okay, start.
Okay, I think I'm not sure if it's just about filmmaking, but I think this is about being an artist. And I think when you're not from an environment that supports your artistic view, artistic career, or like dreams in general, I do think as a child mostly or a young person, you get to be affected from outside world a lot on what you do, how you do it, and like what they think about you. And I think that's the most limiting thing for an artist and a filmmaker, I believe. I think like if you think and if you believe that it's in you and you want to create something, you want to do something, just go do it, no matter what they say or what they think about you, because this is the creative world. I think most of the time, like you're so affected by the thoughts that are not even belonging to you. So I would say just like have your boundaries and chase your dreams.
I agree with that. I would add on to that though, because I think anyone who's like truly passionate about something, no matter what it is, like if you really, really want something, there are going to be hurdles along the way, because I think like things in life don't necessarily come easy. And if you, for example, want to work in the entertainment industry, but even with other industries, like it's going to be competitive and it's going to be hard to like keep going when there are struggles. So having a good safety net and people that you can fall back onto is super, super helpful. Because I remember just like for us, it's the additional layer of like moving to LA and living abroad. But with anything, it's just, I think life can become overwhelming, or like challenges can seem like they are a lot. And when you have people that believe in you and are like, if this is your passion and if you want to pursue this, like we give you the room and the space to do it, whether it's your family or you have really close friends or a partner. Or like for me, like my friend who turned into my business partner who helps you through that time is really, really helpful, because I think anyone can like have a dream and a passion, but then to actually follow through when things get hard and like keep pushing, and like also at the same time, like being okay while trying to be successful. Having the right people in your life is really important for that.
That's great advice. Listen up, kids. But let's talk about social media before we wrap up. How do you guys leverage social media to either promote yourselves and promote your films that you're working on?
Yeah. Okay. That's a difficult topic, to be honest, because I have been working in social media. I used to do a lot of work for fashion brands, and like I was in PR. And I remember it was a lot easier, or like less competition out there for social media. And now, like, especially if you live in LA, like probably when you're sitting at a cafe, everyone is over 10K or something. You never know. So it's kind of difficult to do that. But I think we do try to connect with the right people and promote anything that we do through our connections, because I think now the social media world is more a niche world for me. Instead of like just getting more views, you have to get the right views. So like it's not about how many views you get, but like if those people who are viewing your promotion is really interested in that industry or like the project that you're working on. So like we're trying to make it as much as related to our own circle as possible, I believe.
Yeah. But also at the same time, I think we're kind of like spreading through different platforms. So it's like we're not limiting ourselves to Instagram, for example. We have a website, even for the premiere that's up and coming. Like we have like an RSVP and a website for that and a QR code, and then going through social media. But we also have a poster. So we're going to like advertise it outside the theater, and kind of like connecting the worlds of like, oh, if you hand out flyers or you want to market it in person, like film yourself on social media and show how you're out there promoting your film. So you can just like connect all the different avenues, which I think is also nice. So
yeah. And so where can our listeners follow your journey? Like what's your social medias?
Yes.
Okay, so mine is my first name. It's Catie. It's spelled with a C, so it's Catie. And then my last name is Loth. So it's pretty much my IMDb, like my artist name, because it's not my German name. So it's like my American like producer and writer name. And that's just the handle on everything that is online.
And for me, my surname is even more difficult than my name. So that's why like it's Ceylin and Ko. Then it's my name. So
okay, and you guys just post like your journeys on like the projects you're working on and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, we do share a lot of like interviews and also like the awards that we get from festivals to like at least to have the right portrayal on the social media. And like we try to repost anything about any project that we have over there.
A lot is about projects, but to be honest, also a little bit just the LA life. To be honest, it's just like, okay, so when we have coffee meetings or when you like start a new journey on something, or just like also showing people to not get too caught up in the work and just like have glimpses of like, oh no, you could also like go to the farmer's market, like stuff like that too. So it's just more,
And
it's not
writing
just
a script
exactly.
and Alfred's.
So it's a mixture of like seeing the the journey for our career, but also just personal life stuff. And then we do have an Instagram account for the film as well, which is Deserted.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Is the handle like
Deserted short film.
Short film.
And that's coming out on the 20th.
30th.
It's already like, man.
Yeah, the 20th is tomorrow. So.
Yeah, I know, right? The 30th.
Yeah.
And it's coming out. That's awesome. Where else can people see that movie after it premieres?
And festivals.
Yeah.
So it's gonna go to festivals.
Yeah, we're gonna have a festival distribution, and we're actually trying to go like international. So with the festivals, like afterwards, because oftentimes with festivals they want like, for example, if it's in a different country or a different state, they oftentimes want the rights that it's like the first time shown there. So it's gonna be after the premiere, just like wait for festival distribution. And then afterwards, there will be a release online, I guess.
Yeah, that's why if you're in LA, this is your time to watch it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely, if you guys send me like the information, I'd love to go. If I have no other work or plans that day, I would love to go. But any other final words of encouragement to maybe like some of your fellow friends from back home or people that are maybe trying to move to LA and pursue their goals? Any words of encouragement?
I think this is something we discuss nowadays because even though, yes, we kind of promoted the idea of coming here and how it makes it easier to connect with people, we also believe that LA is kind of creating this world that you can't see anything outside. Like, in other words, like you feel like you have to be here to do something, which is kind of a trap at this point for me because like, yes, you can come here to learn so many things, but you don't have to be at any place to do something. I think I would say that because there are people who wouldn't be able to come here or who can come for a month and see and go back, you know, or don't have the opportunity to go outside their country. I think also nowadays in today's world, it's not about where you live or how you do it, but like your own inspiration, like being your own inspiration and like finding a way to chase your dreams no matter where you are. So I think that's important too, because I get to hear a lot like, oh, you're there. So like, of course it's easier, but it's not about that. You know, like LA is very difficult and probably most of the people that I know wouldn't be able to even survive or stay here for that long. It's more about you and what you do as a person, what you believe as a person, as an artist. That's why I would say like, do your own thing and like, just like free yourself from the idea of you're not at the right place because you can create your right space.
Great. Catie, any last words?
Kind of in addition to what you said, I agree with LA sometimes feels like you just have to like break out of this bubble because it is a bubble. And it's funny because my friends in Germany oftentimes like, or the ones that I'm not super close with and they just follow you on social media. It's like so impressive. Like you moved to LA. That's so brave. Like you're pursuing your dream. And it all looks so like glamorous of like, oh yeah, you're like really out there doing your thing. Like you're like pursuing your dream, but it is difficult sometimes. And LA kind of like you said, sometimes you have to just like step out for a minute to regain perspective. So my final words, I guess, in accordance to what you said would be to just remember why you wanted to do it and just like keep finding your joy in it, because if it becomes more of a burden and just like sucks the joy out of it because it becomes such a like rat race of like you feeling like you have to be here and you have to work hard and you have to do more because everyone in LA wants to be a creative, or like most people in LA want to be creative. And then a lot of people are also like still like growing and up and coming. So it feels like everyone's constantly struggling, and to just remember why you want to do it, why you're passionate about it. So you don't have to be here. You can do it anywhere. But you also like, if you're here, yes, there are great opportunities, but try to like remember the fun of it all and like why you actually wanted this dream in the first place.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming to the studio.
Thank you for having us.
Oh,
This is also
wow.
such a
That was like such a unison.
studio.
Yes. Thank you. But thank you guys. And guys, make sure to follow them and follow me subscribe, and check out westcoastcreativestudio.com if you are interested in booking the studio. We are here, or you can just come check it out, book a studio tour, and we'll take care of you. So guys, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Yes.